All right, so I am going to teach you how to convert a non-stream PED to a stream PED. Um, so a streamed PED, a non-streamed PED is a PED where the entirety of the model is inside of one YDD file. Whereas a non-streamed PED is one where all the models are actually separate components inside of a subfolder. Um, For the rest of it, it's pretty much the same. They both have YMTs, they both have YFTs, but inside of the model folder you have YDDs and YTDs as individual components. Whereas the other version, it's a YDD with every single one of the parts of the model is a part underneath the greater file. All right. Um, I don't know if there's a real benefit of one over the other in anything other than the fact that this might be loaded differently in game. I don't know if one uses more memory over another because, hey, this only needs to be loaded once, whereas the other one needs to be loaded multiple times. Um, I guess it would depend on how the internal memory of the game is governed, because this would only be loaded once, but each of the different variations on screen is using less resources or something. Is the only thing I can think of, one way or the other. All right. So I don't know if there's a real benefit to one version versus the other. All right. Um, so I am going to be using Open4 in order to do this conversion, but it can also be done inside of CodeWalker. It would just be slightly different in the way that it's being done, because this will save everything off as an open format, whereas the other one saves it off as an XML file. Essentially, for simplification purposes, the same thing. Um, you would have similarly formatted files with the ability to manipulate them directly with a text editor. All right. So I'm exporting the model itself right now, and then I am going to export the textures, and I will explain that why in a moment. So now I have both exported, the model and the texture. Um, Here we have the ODD. This allows you to define the models that are part of the global file. So that's here. Um, each one of these ODRs is the actual model itself. We can actually go into here and edit these if we wanted to, in order to add or remove components. For example, this is something you would want to do, is the head textures, the head models here contain the skeleton file. There's no need for that because there is a YTF as a part of the model. I believe having the skeleton as part of one of the models is bad because it can get you into a bad situation. Specifically, there were a pair of shoes that I got from somebody, or from GTA 5 mod, where the shoes contained a skeleton, but the person who created the shoes only included the skeleton from the waist down. So you had functional legs. When you added the shoes to your in-game model, because I'm thinking the legs were added, the shoes were added last. It unloaded the primary skeleton of the model, or it took over precedent. I don't know exactly how to word it or how it actually worked in the game because of how it was stacked, so to speak. But the ped in game, the upper body became frozen. Arms straight out to the side, neck uh, solidified facing forward, face blank, nothing, no movement whatsoever. So the legs moved, but the body was frozen. So it looked like you were T-posing while running around the room. You know? So there's no need for a model to contain the skeleton when the skeleton for the model, for the overarching PED, is included elsewhere. All right. So what I recommend doing is checking each of these files for skeleton and changing it to null, because you don't want that in there. Or I say you don't want that in there. All right. The next thing you would want to do is, because you are going to be having multiple textures as a part of these models and texture builds, um, there is a normal map and a specular map that is a part of this. Um, here's your normal. Here's your normal, and here's your spec or bump map, whatever the hell you want to call it. All right. Um, these are inside of the texture file that we exported earlier. All right. What you actually want to do is you want to move them into this subfolder. And the reason for that is because the model, you want to contain those, and you don't want to have them inside of the texture file multiple times. You would be wasting valuable space for uh, the DLC, or whatever memory. I don't know if it's used via memory there. So what we would want to do is we would take these, and I'm going to move them. I say move them because once you move them, they're not in the other area, and then you can figure out what you need to do, um, how many actual textures you have to create for the model. All right, so now that those are there, I've edited the model ODR file to contain that updated information. I am now going to bring that into here. You notice this is 110 kilobytes because the texture is built into it. If I bring over the 001, you'll notice this is a 14. If I do the same thing for the 01, where .otx and the folder, save that off, and yeah, I just did that off screen, so you didn't see it, but here's what I edited here. Same deal as before, but I got to go back to the texture and grab the normal for the 01, and I will put that into here as well. All right, and then when I bring this in, it'll go from 14 to 112. And again, here are the embedded textures that I just added in. Now, the only other thing you have to do is you have to create the actual texture files. You have two ways of doing that. One is by manipulating the files directly, the ODR file in the the ODT here, saving off multiples of these for each of your diffuse maps. Ultimately, it might be simpler for you to just come in here and do new texture, paste that in, and then drag that in there. Save that. And if I do the same thing for this one here, that's the B. I wanted the A. So this is the A. Drag that in there, save that. Now both of these will actually show with the texture on them. All right. What you would then do is similar to this dead hooker. Why is there a model for a dead hooker? It's not like they... Do they have a... like a bloody version? Is that a bloody version? It's a beat up version at least. Interesting. Okay. I never paid attention to that before. So that allows you to take the converted model and turn it into a streamed PED, where, like I mentioned earlier, the only thing you'd have to do, I think I mentioned it earlier, is change this from true to for false to true.